Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. I apologize for the last two videos. I didn't realize I had my iPad screen kind of tipped forward and it kind of made a little bit of a longer drawback on the video, but nonetheless the quality is still amazing as far as what came out of me. It doesn't have to be the most perfect video, and again, I'm still learning and growing as I go. But anyways, today's video, I don't have any like non-diabetes things that are interesting going on right now, so I thought this video for today, which is Saturday, will go up Saturday. I'm gonna do a kind of a book review on the book Spots Landmines, The Diabetes Guide I Wish Someone Had Handed Me by Adam Brown. I read this book as part of one of my 20 minutes a day book for my diabetes health journal, which you saw the 1 month update that went up yesterday. If you didn't, feel free to go check that out. But anyways, I got through this book in about 3 out of the 7 nights that I was going to be reading. It was a pretty fast read for me, and a lot of these tips and tricks that he shared here, I've already applied and have figured out, but there's a lot of other things that I learned more specifically, and I hope to kind of share some of the things with you without giving away too much. I highly recommend this book to anybody, but to anybody like myself who is fairly newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it gives you a lot of great handouts, a lot of great tips to get you started and how to accomplish things. And as you get more and more experienced, I'm not the most experienced, but I've definitely noticed I've taken more risk with dosing myself, eating more things that are difficult to bolus for. You kind of learn and challenge yourself as you go. But anyways, this is a great place to start, and it was a great book. So I'm going to like go through and kind of share kind of what happens very briefly and how I interpret it. So first of all, I believe there is 4 or 5 chapters. I have to check. Give me 1 second. I'm using my phone because I screenshotted a bunch of things that I'm going to print off or write down that I thought were really, really important in the book. And I thought were could be beneficial now or later on in the future. I also do want to mention that if you want to get this book, you can buy it online, probably from Amazon or anywhere else. But I was able, if you do the ebook or like the book in a PDF format, like I read it on my iPhone, you can download it for free. I'll try to leave the link down below so you can read it for free if you can stand reading ebooks. I'm normally not a big fan, but to me it wasn't that bad, seeing as though it was a fairly fast and simple read. I think there was a total of from what I'm reading here from my little notes here, there was a total of 4 chapters. There was 3 chapters. First one revolving around food, the second one revolving around mindset, the third one revolving around exercise, and the fourth one was tying it all together and summing things up in a way that kind of can apply to a lot of different things. So the food chapter to me was pretty basic and pretty standard, what you're taught as a diabetic, or maybe you're taught from the American Diabetes Association, or things you learn from other people living with type 1 diabetes. But I did take a screenshot of the chapter summary, and he kind of delves into, with the book being bright spots and landmines. So things like bright spots are things that work well, things that can help you obtain healthy blood sugars, things that help you maintain a healthier quality of life. And landmines are the things that make your blood sugar go really awry, and things that make your mindset and your health go kind of down into the dumpers. So as far as the bright spots go with the food, I just took a picture of the bright spots and the landmines chapter summary of the food. One of the things that stood out to me that I really liked that I didn't think about was eat slowly and stop before you're 100% full. And that can actually make a difference as far as like blood sugars. It can make a difference in your digestion. It can make a difference in controlling your weight, controlling your appetite, not binge eating. You get the point. And the other thing I liked in here was view food purchases like a political vote. What kind of an organization am I supporting? Am I supporting foods that are refined and more sugary and things that aren't really beneficial to my health? Or am I supporting foods that are going to give me a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of nutrients, a lot of things that can really benefit me and benefit my blood sugars? And then he talked about basic things that a lot of us know. Check your blood sugars 2 to 3 hours after meals, or wear a CGM. Try to eat less than, he says 30 grams of carbs at a time, but I say 60. But it also depends on what kind of carbs you eat. I try to eat less than 30 carbs of rapid acting carbs like cakes or cookies and stuff like that. And I try to fill the rest of my carbs to be more hard carbs or more carbs from like vegetables, like carrots and stuff that has a little more of a starchier tone to it. He said choose breakfast foods high in protein, fat, and fiber. And he gave some recipes like chia seed recipes, which I've taken pictures of. I've always wanted to try those. Try to fill your plate half full with vegetables. Dose insulin 20 minutes before eating a meal with 30 grams of carbs or more, and that's something I do regularly. Eat an early dinner. Now, this is something I'm trying to work on. I've been so bad at eating a dinner at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, which is like 2 or 3 hours before I'm supposed to take my basal dose. And I found out sometimes my blood sugar will spike right before I go to sleep, and I end up having to take more insulin. But if I eat before 7 o'clock at night, my body doesn't need as much. Or I don't have to take a dose of Humalog along with a dose of Basaglar, if that makes sense. Eat berries instead of traditional desserts. Cook at home. Snack on nuts and seeds. And then ask yourself, are you hungry, bored, tired, or are you just near food? And then his landmines were do not overcorrect to treat a low, or don't use a low blood sugar as an excuse to treat yourself. Things like white foods like bread, potatoes, rice, noodles, baked goods, crackers, chips, pure sugar are not good for the blood sugars. Junk food in the house, snacks at night, eating directly out of a package. Look at packaged foods with more than 10 ingredients. If it has a lot of ingredients that you don't understand or don't make sense or you don't know the names of or don't know their purpose, probably not a good idea to eat it because it's probably got a lot of excess stuff that could impact your blood sugar or it's probably made with more refined sugars. Avoid sugary drinks, obviously like fruit smoothies, big bottles of juice, regular soda, sweet tea, milkshake, sports drinks, and don't have exceptions. Don't say, oh, just this once, or I'm only going to do it once and I'll never do it again, or I earned it, or whatever the case may be. So that was the chapter 1 with the food, and then he gives you what he eats and some recipes and stuff. Now I'll move on to chapter 2, which to me is important but very much overlooked. Like I said, mindset to me is extremely important if you're a diabetic to keep that, because I do wholeheartedly believe the more positive you are and the better of a mindset you keep, the better and easier it will be to control your blood sugars. I've even personally dealt with this a lot. It's so much easier when I'm not as stressed or when I just take time to do things and look at things from a more positive mindset. It makes it so much easier to keep my blood sugars in line. I'm not even kidding you. And this is often overlooked, and I like that he put the whole chapter on this, and a lot of this stuff that I screenshotted from the Mindset Bright Spots and Landmines, I'm not going to read because they're more in-depth and more philosophical and stuff, and I think you should just read the book yourself if you want to find out more of these. But I'll pick the top 3 that stood out to me that I would have looked, that I definitely need to work on a little more, or I think that stood out to me that I never would have thought of. So the first one is, blood sugar numbers are neutral information to make a decision. They are not good or bad grades or tests. So you can't just look at a number and say I'm having a bad blood sugar. Okay, let's just say my blood sugar right now is 195. That is a pretty high blood sugar, right? You would all agree with me that that's getting on the high side. For me, I would consider that extremely high. For others of you, you might consider that a little elevated. But I think we all can agree that a blood sugar of 195, which would be an equivalent of, it would be over 10 millimoles. Let me see. That would be almost 11 millimoles per liter. I think you would all agree that would be kind of a high blood sugar. But don't let that be a bad test grade. Don't let that define you. Don't assume that that one number is going to determine the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your year. Okay? It's one number. Use that number to make a decision. Okay, I'm at 195. Can I do some exercise to maybe bring that down? Can I take a shot of insulin? Or I don't have insulin on board. Maybe I should take some insulin and that could bring it right back down to my healthy blood sugar target, or whatever you want to do in that aspect. So don't treat your blood sugars like a grade. I definitely have a hard time looking at it because I get so involved in numerical analysis. That's the kind of like mindset I've had. I've always been good with math, good with numbers. So when I see blood sugars that are like that, I start assuming that it was like all my fault, or it's going to cause chaotic events later on, or I'm going to have a bad blood sugar day. And I've learned to just treat it as a number and use it to make decisions with. The second thing is there are only 24 hours in a day and you can only do your best. Again, this is a very hard thing. You can only do your best. You can't do anything more. There are things you're not going to be able to control. There are circumstances that are going to arise that you can't always control or that you can't always deal with in the best way. But the best thing you can do is put forth your best effort and deal with it. Understand that you can only do your best, that you're a human. You're not perfect, nor will you ever be perfect. We all have flaws. We all have weaknesses. And we just have to deal with it in the best way, shape, or form and use our strengths to kind of push past those weaknesses, if that makes sense. And the third thing is to commit to a goal and hold myself accountable. Tell friends, make it public, lock myself in financially. So hold yourself accountable. Like for me, like I have a share app, and my one of my parents gets to see that. And I'm more open to, like, if someone asks what my blood sugar is, I'm not scared to show that. I'm not scared to show my graph, even if it wasn't so good. And even with you guys, I'm getting really good at, even on my Instagram, I share my good days. I share my rocky days with you. And know that my blood sugars aren't perfect, and know that you got to hold yourself accountable. And the beauty of the type 1 diabetes community, especially on Beyond Type 1, if I had a problem or I've had high blood sugars and they won't come down, and I've tried everything, I could say something and maybe somebody could give me a suggestion that I wouldn't have thought of. And great, maybe that helps correct my blood sugar. Or maybe somebody could advise me and maybe what I could do to make better decisions about how I'm going to dose myself. Not saying you can't be a doctor and you can't directly say, Maddie, you've got to do this, but you can give me ideas and I can choose to make the decision for myself. Diabetes is definitely an individual disease, but at the same time, there are other people that can help you hold yourself accountable to have healthier blood sugars, which in turn is going to give you a healthier future. So we're going to move on to the third chapter, which to me is about exercise, which to me, again, is extremely important no matter if you are diabetic or not. Your body likes exercise. Your body likes to build muscle and maintain the muscle it has. Good for your cardiovascular system. You get the point. And he has bright spots as far as the exercise goes. And again, I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, but I'm going to talk about things that I never would have thought of. And the first one is reduce your bolus insulin based on your type of activity. Examples, reduce by 75% for endurance exercise and reduce 30% before walking. Now, this is something, because my exercise isn't as scheduled, it's kind of hard. Now that I have it more scheduled, I'm able to time it right. But if you want to do... if you want to eat around and take some insulin right around the time you want to exercise, he recommends reducing your insulin by a certain percentage. And he said you're going to take time and you're going to figure out what that percentage is. For me, it could be 50%. Excuse me, but for somebody else, it could be 75%. For somebody else, it might only be 10%. But he's a good chance any type of exercise you do will reduce your insulin dose. And as far as strength goes, strength could bump your blood sugar up. But he said you have to watch more after you do strength type exercises because your blood sugar will come down after that, after the hormonal spikes are done with you building muscle. But that's something that he recommended, was watching how much you reduce your insulin by, and that's something that you can do. I know for me, I never really done this. I just like watch for low blood sugars, or I eat a snack before I go, and sometimes that can result in a high because you didn't drop low enough. And he also said to kind of know how much a certain activity drops your blood sugar. He said you might have to make a mental note of it or keep writing things until you figure it out. If you go for a walk, a 30-minute walk might only drop my blood sugar. Just say, for example, it might drop my blood sugar 60 milligrams per deciliter, which would be, let's see, that would be like, what, 4 millimoles? A little less than 4 millimoles per liter. Whereas if I do a whole hour walk, it might drop me 120 or 110 milligrams per deciliter. You get the point here. You got to kind of know what happens for you. But that's something that definitely stood out with me. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting is to look at your blood sugar now and expect it, and how much you expect it to change, but then should you eat or should you take insulin? Now, this is something that's kind of a guessing game, but at the same time, you have to be able to predict yourself. Like I said, sometimes I'll eat before I exercise, and sometimes if I have a really stubborn high blood sugar, like in the 200s, I know exercise alone won't bring that down to where I want it to, so I might take only a unit of insulin, whereas if I'm going to be less active, I would need 2.5, which is kind of amazing how much exercise can benefit in correlation to the insulin to bring a blood sugar down back into healthier range. And the final thing I thought was really important here was to store treatments for low blood sugars everywhere. In his case, it's glucose tablets, and always carry them during exercise. Absolutely. I have a store in my house. I have a store in my little bag that I always carry with me. There's always some form of low blood sugar treatments, and like him, I use a lot of glucose tablets because number one, they're not easy to overindulge on, and number two, you can micro treat and eat only a certain amount and know exactly what's going in and what comes out. You know how much a certain amount raises your blood sugar, and how much it will take to get your blood sugar back to a safe range. And then to wrap it all up, he kind of talked about everything else, and that the main thing is to literally combine all these things together and know that not just one of these things will help you. You need to combine all of these things. You need to watch what you're eating and how much you're eating and what kind of carbs they are. You need to watch your exercise, how it impacts you, what it does when there's insulin on board, and how you need to adjust your insulin accordingly. And you need to really watch what's going on up here, because knowing what's going on up here is going to correlate to what's going on in the rest of your body. So I think I gave you a pretty good review on the book by Adam Brown. It is a very good book. Highly recommend it. Again, if I can link the website to the e-link where you can get it for free, go for it. Go for it and read it. If you have read this book, comment down below the tips and tricks that you learned that I thought were pretty cool. I kind of shared mine. And like I said, there's a whole ton more in this book that I couldn't explain because this video would go for a whole hour. And right now we are at about 20 minutes. So I think I've said everything that I can about this particular book. And I hope to do another one very soon. The next books on my list are going to be Sugar Surfing by Dr. Ponder. And I hope to buy Dr. Bernstein's books because I think he does have some applicable things that do work. The only controversial thing with Dr. Bernstein is the way his diet is. But you can maintain pretty normal blood sugars through his diet for sure, and maintain like I said, non-diabetic levels. But his diet is very controversial, and I think maybe I'd try it and just to see what it's like, but I don't necessarily think it might work for my lifestyle. But I definitely want to read his books and know what his perspective is, and maybe learn some things that I never would have thought of as far as basal dosing, as far as regular human insulin if I ever want to go that route, etc., etc. So if you have any other book suggestions beyond Dr. Bernstein's or Sugar Surfing or Bright Spots and Landmines that you would want me to read and check out as far as diabetes related, let me know, and I would be more than willing to eventually purchase those and read them and do a review. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I post about diabetes related content plus more. And if you do decide to subscribe, there is a notification bell. You can hit that, and you will get a notification on any of your devices when I upload something new. I post Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, except this week's an odd exception. You had my diagnosis story on Wednesday. You had a Costco and Dexcom update on Thursday. Friday, you had Friday's video, you have today's video, tomorrow's video, and you have a video on Monday because Monday is April 1st, and that is when T1D with Maddie episode 4 will air. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you tomorrow for Sunday's video. And until then, take care, God bless, be kind, spread positivity, and be thankful. Bye, everyone.